point that I'm like, I have to admit to myself, I'm not okay. I can't do my job. I can't do any of my hobbies. All of my relationships are crumbling around me.
And people who have addictive issues, we're in denial like crazy. We're in denial for years and years and years, man.
Even no matter how many people and how many doctors and how many people you have seen who told you you're not going to get better. That's absolutely not true.
Hey, everybody. You are back on the Sober Awakening podcast. I am the host, the president, CEO, and founder of Sober Awakening, Tim, and I am here today with my very special guest, Allison Andraski. Allison actually comes to us having completed her Ph.D. and postdoctoral research training at Harvard University, where she spent time investigating the effect of diet on cholesterol metabolism. Allison also conducted research studies in immunology as a postbaccalaureate intramural research training award fellow at the National Institutes of Health and as an undergraduate at the University of California, Santa Barbara. Okay, so no small background there. She has also published over a dozen primary research articles and has been a speaker at several international conferences and department seminars, having also received multiple awards for her research work. All right, so Dr. Andraski, here we go. Thank you for being with us.
Tim, thanks so much. It's an honor to be here and to be able to chat today. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. So unlike our other guests that we've had on here, you are the first one that does not come from any type of background with substance abuse in your own arena. You've never really been, I mean, I don't know if you have like a sugar addiction or you like too many chocolate chip cookies or something like that. A lot of people have a lot of different addictions, but where you come from is a very science heavy background. You have, achieved a very, very significantly accomplished level of education, but throughout your lifetime, you have your own personal journey with pain and trying to manage pain and trying to overcome pain. And you have an approach that you've adopted that combines science and intuition and spiritual practice and all this cool stuff to help alleviate pain that manifests in the body as you've experienced. So with that, can you talk a little bit about your journey through, your pain management and how this all came to be with you?
Yeah, Tim, thanks for that question. And thanks for the introduction too. It's kind of,
did I get everything right?
You got it all right. And it was kind of, that part of my background is something I'm kind of, it's still there, still very much science minded, but the focus has been shifting so much. So as you went through it, it's like, oh yeah, I did all those things, but my focus now is so different. So I'm happy to be talking here, happy for this question to kind of tell you, well, why is it different? Why am I not just the science nerd that I was deep into for a really long time? So I come from a family that's very brain driven. I learned very early on as a kid, that society, my family, culturally, we respect intelligence. We respect what your mind can do. We respect what you can do through some sort of very more high intellectual job. So from a very early on age, I said, well, I did want to be a writer. I wanted to write fantasy books as a kid, but I learned very early on that was not a quote unquote respectable career. So I thought, well, science seems to be okay. I like the human body. I've been an athlete my whole life. I've always been interested and had injuries and how we heal and how diet works and how it doesn't work and how are we healthy. So that sent me, and I've always loved school too and loved learning. So it was very natural for me to gravitate towards this high academic kind of world. So did the undergraduate, did the fellowships, then went on to do the PhD. And that for me was never really a difficult decision. It was just, I was good at it. I liked it. So I kept going to do more and more and more schooling. And when I got into graduate school, I loved it, was focused on nutrition, really, really liked the research and how it made your brain think and just being on the edge of really studying what we know, but also knowing what we don't know. But that theme kind of picked up surprisingly when I started getting all of these injuries. So I started calling them injuries at the beginning because I didn't have the word chronic pain. I didn't have the word chronic at all because I associated chronic problems with people who were unhealthy and people who were older, or not me. I was young, I was still active, but I tore my ACL playing soccer. I got surgery and recovered, but I wasn't getting better. My knee started feeling funny one day and it kept getting worse and worse and worse to the point where I couldn't walk. I was going back to doing all the PT things, doing the things the doctors told me to do, getting all the MRIs, getting all these checks, and just like, Allison, your knee's fine. We don't know why you're having all these issues. But for me, being the scientist I am, I'm like, well, of course there has to be something wrong. So go to the new doctors, do the new thing, try the new therapy, whatever it is. Maybe I'll try this injection. Maybe I'll try this. There has to be something wrong. And then the next year, there would be something new of, oh, now I have back pain all of a sudden. Did I hurt my back? Not that I know of, but I can justify maybe I'm walking funny because I've had these knee issues. So it starts over again, another year where it's like, why do I have back pain? Let's go to PT. Let's do this. Let's do this. So I'm in graduate school, but I'm also going to PT like it's my second job and going to medical appointments all the time, just trying to figure out what's going on. And this year after year was the pattern that was coming up for me, where each year I would have something new. So then the year after that, it was nerve pain. And then the year after that, it was foot pain. And I was so much of a person of like, well, I'll just figure this out. I'll power through, but I'll pretend nothing's bothering me because I got this. I'm tough. I'm strong. I can just deal with this and not show anybody anybody else that I'm struggling. I haven't been able to do all my athletic hobbies. I'm not seeing my friends. My partnership is strained because a lot of our basis was the athletic and outdoor things we did together. I haven't done this in years, but hey, I'm fine. No big deal. I'm relaxed. I was not. This was the kind of thing I was telling myself, the lies I was telling myself, and I didn't want anybody, especially the world, to realize I was struggling. So, yeah. Do you have a thought there?
I do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Something I neglected to mention early on here, where I want to go with this, and I know I told you this before we started talking, is, a lot of the people who tune into this are not only they've dealt with addiction, but they're also sober-minded people who want to be able to manage pain, perhaps without using any substance, be it alcohol, medical marijuana, or opioids, or anything like that to manage their pain. Do you, along the way, as these things started to snowball and you were going to doctors and physical therapy and everything like that, were you ever prescribed any pain medication?
I tried some headache medication. I never did an opiate. Well, I did for my knee surgery. And I tried this one headache medication. It was one of those things with all these side effects that came along with it, where they told me it was going to make me sleepy, but I was like the 1% of people that had the opposite effect, where it caused really severe insomnia. It helped my headaches. My headaches did go away, but I wasn't sleeping. And it made me feel very crazy in that sense. And one kind of lucky part, and we'll get to this more as we talk about, body sensitivities and whatnot. I've always had a pretty sensitive physical symptom. So diverting to something like a medication or alcohol or marijuana or anything like that, usually the response in my body was just so tuned up that it was usually too much and too disruptive for me physically. So in some ways, that's a beautiful thing. In other ways, it was complicated because I'm just, I want to be able to take this medicine because this is helping my headaches, but I'm not sleeping. So it was a challenging thing of, I need to find something else. The injections aren't helping. The PT's not helping. These medications, these pain management things are not helping. So what am I going to do? And I just kept powering through, as we all do, because we think we're quote unquote fine, or we found something to take the edge off. Mine was denial. It was how I kind of managed taking the edge off and just pretending it wasn't as bad as it was. And I was focusing all my energy on my career instead. And that was going well. That was moving forward. And I just kept pretending I was fine. Until one day I got a viral infection that then turned chronic, similar to what long COVID is doing for many individuals and experiencing with that. It was something that wasn't that bad. I had a headache and fever for a while, but then I didn't just have body pains after that. I had symptoms like headache, fatigue, and brain fog that turned chronic. And that's when, after I felt sick every day for 6 months, and this lasted for years, but it was about at that 6 month time point that I'm like, I have to admit to myself, I'm not okay. I can't do my job. I can't do any of my hobbies. All of my relationships are crumbling around me. I have nothing. I need to do something different. In this medical world, which I'm trained in and been told it should help me, and I should find that little cure that maybe nobody knows about, or maybe I have a rare cancer or a rare genetic thing, or all of that world that I knew and had trained in wasn't helping me to get better. And that was a really hard moment of me of, well, what do I actually do next? So that started a journey. Are we ready for that conversation too?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of wondering, okay, so where do we get to the point where you and I met? Because we met through Earth Magic Academy. And I remember when I first met you in the very first introductory class they offer when we start meditating and everything like that, you were not feeling so great. You were not doing well. Are we at that point yet, or is there more?
We're almost there.
Okay.
So we have about like a 2-year gap before I meet Tim. And this is the beginning of, okay, I'm not doing well. I'm finally admitting to myself I'm not okay. I have to tell my boss, I just graduated. I just got my Ph.D. I'm doing my postdoc work now, but I can't do my job. What am I supposed to do? So this was a huge transition for me because I had so much shame around admitting that I was struggling, because everyone on the outside always seems to be doing fine. I didn't know anybody with all these medical problems. Why was it me? What was wrong with me? And that was a huge transition for me, just admitting I was not okay. And I'm sure a lot of viewers can, once you get to that point, if you're just, okay, I can't cope, there's nothing else for me to hold on to. My world has crumbled. What do I do? And I just by chance came across this research work, and it was talking about emotional expression and how when we have a lot of emotions that we don't feel and we repress them, even when we don't realize we're not feeling them, that our body can, instead of feeling the emotion, our brains can decide, okay, well, we're not allowed to feel angry here, or we're not allowed to feel sad here, or we're not allowed to feel whatever it is that the natural emotion is that's coming up. All right, we're going to start producing pain instead. So this could be pain signals, say from a knee injury that I had from years ago, or from a back injury, or just randomly a headache that shows up one day. That could be because you're not expressing grief, you're not expressing anger, you're not expressing whatever it is. And this researcher and medical doctor who was talking about this, when I saw this documentary of his, it was just one line of, when you allow yourself to start feeling your emotions, that can allow you to get out of pain. And I had never thought of this concept before. Never, and hearing all these recovery stories and people who had things like me, and I'm just, well, at this point, I'm desperate. I don't feel emotions. I've always thought, that's what the weaker, lesser people do. But heck, I'm going to try it. So this just beginning of emotional expression journey wasn't just about feeling emotions to me. It was also kind of a turn from looking externally, about looking for someone else to find out what was wrong with me, and more of this switch of going internal and like, why do I do what I do? Why do I respond so strongly to criticism? Why am I so afraid of struggle? Why do I crumble when someone tells me this or that? Or why can't I feel? Why can't I be sad about all this loss I've gone through the last 5 years? Why can't I be mad at the doctor that didn't help me? Why can't I feel this? So that was the switch to, all right, I'm not going to focus on my symptoms so much. I'm not going to look for the cure so much, because I've done all that. I've tried all the things that the medical field has told me to do, and they haven't worked. So let's go for the self-discovery journey and see what happens. And that's what then, after I started just experimenting on myself on what happens if I cry? Do I feel better? Whoa, I feel better when I cry. What if I cry a lot? What if I cry a little bit? So I just started kind of experimenting and really trying to figure out who I am and who I'm trying to be or who I'm suppressing, and more of an inner journey as opposed to an outer journey looking to somebody else to help me. And that's slowly where then I met Tim in this meditation class, because it was all about learning to trust your intuition, which, as somebody who had had pain in their body for a long time, I had stopped trusting that instinctive feeling that we all feel that tells us what's right. And I'd stayed in situations like a partnership that wasn't great, a job that actually turns out I didn't want, because I wasn't trusting that feeling. I wasn't trusting any of the sensations emotionally, intuitively, because all I had experienced in my body for so long was pain and discomfort, that it was really that journey of trying to come back and how do I learn to trust my body again and these feelings.
Yeah, denial of your emotions sounds a lot to me like addiction. In a way, because you're denying your emotions caused all these issues in your life. You were kind of shut off. You were a little bit emotionally numb. You're suppressing it. When you are chronically addicted to something, you're suppressing your emotions. You cannot feel, you just cannot show up the way you are supposed to show up in the world. And I can go back to, I've said this in other places before, I can go back to like 20 years old now and look at my history of substance abuse with alcohol, even though it wasn't like I was drinking all the time or everything back then. But I was like, man, I was really suppressing a lot, and it wasn't always negative. Sometimes it was positive. Sometimes it's just like, I wasn't showing up for the people, places, and things in the authentic way that I could now, and it's just a whole kind of sounds a lot like what you're describing, but you did it without chemicals, period. You were just doing it because you're Allison, and that's the way you were kind of programmed to
Absolutely.
be in the world.
Yeah. And I very much was following, I like the word programming for this,
Yeah.
because I was following the program of who I thought I was supposed to be. And I was not supposed to be emotional. I was supposed to be tough. I was supposed to be able to do all the things that other people couldn't do, because academically I'd been super successful in my career and doing things that others had not been able to achieve, but I was never allowed to not achieve it. I was never not allowed to do better or figure it out or accomplish something. So that was my motivator, more of like, oh, that's who I am. That's who everyone expects me to be. So I have to stay as that person. Turns out I'm not authentically that person.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was realizing that. Yeah.
So with the meditation group, we'll just call it that for simplicity. The meditation group that we first got into, was that your first stab at, going internal, or had you been doing, I think you just mentioned doing some of your own experimentation before you found that, or?
Yeah, I'd been doing a little bit more experimentation just on my own, but it was more from like a psychology standpoint and a medical standpoint of like, oh, feel your emotions and then you'll get out of pain. And it hadn't been as personal until going to the meditation class. And that's when it had a kind of a different spin with the spiritual side and the bigger meaning to suffering side. And that's something I hadn't really dabbled in, or really even, I knew there was something to my suffering that was more than I could explain just within myself. Like, there had been so many things that had happened and things that I'd realized and things that had come my way where no matter how much I fought something, a situation would keep happening until I learned what I was supposed to learn. So it just felt like there was something bigger going on, in the sense that I was being, I don't know if called is the right word, but I was being pushed and driven to actualize and become my true self. And it just felt like it wasn't just me doing that. And I'd have these experiences that I couldn't logic or analyze or explain scientifically, but I hadn't really explored them or put words to them or even know how to explain them or talk about them until kind of our meditation class of, well, maybe there is something else going on here. You can tap deeply into your emotions, but is that emotion, is it you? Is it something else? And that was really a fascinating, beautiful journey for me that I'm still on and still discovering.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So what I want to talk a little bit now about is when I met you, and the person I first saw, you were experiencing a lot of pain, and we got to know each other initially in this 3-month long meditation group that met once a week. And I remember at the very beginning, your energy was kind of lower and everything. And as we went through the different exercises week by week, you experienced more emotional release than I think anybody in the group. You let yourself laugh, you let yourself cry. We would do these meditations where, we're running light through our chakra system and everything like that. And, healing energies and all this. And by the end of it, you were talking about the relief of some of your symptoms that you were starting to experience that you had never felt relief from before, or at least you hadn't in the time you'd been pursuing all these medical treatments. And by the end of it, you were like a totally different person. I mean, I'd be telling my wife about this. I'm like, this one girl in my class, boy, she had this profound experience. And, it was really, I mean, you were probably, out of that group, the biggest success story from a physical perspective that I could see. How do you rank that experience as far as the healing you received versus the medical avenues that you had previously pursued?
It's incomparable. I mean, when I was recovering from knee surgery, physical therapy helped. It got my muscles back on board, all of this. But everything else I did after that didn't really do much. And especially the side of it where it's you have all this pain, but you're also told that nothing's wrong. And it turns out that really was true. I didn't have anything structurally or there wasn't a lingering infection. But that dynamic was so challenging. And what I've learned, more now from more of the research and what not coming out, that there's actually a reason behind this and we can talk about this more. But the emotional expression piece and going into, by the time I had this meditation class, I had nothing else to lose. So I was open to anything.
Mhm.
And that coming to that point, I feel like is very unique where I'd been in my bubble, I'd tried the thing, I'd gone into the world I knew. So the only place to go was outside of that. And it was profound because just being able to open to all those different things we were doing, clearing out the chakra systems, but all of it was just getting in touch with yourself and really seeing what was there and what was suppressed and what was real and what wasn't real. And that was 1,000 times more profound than anything I had ever done medically in terms of my healing journey. I mean, I healed more that 3 months just being able to get to know myself and who I really was and start to be that person than by taking a pill.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. So you mentioned research coming out along these lines. Can we jump into that a little bit? I just was hit with this stat not too long ago. Like 800 hospitals in the United States are now offering Reiki therapy as add-on for patients who are in chemotherapy or whatever it might be. I don't know, who they're using it for, but they patients are saying, I really like what the Reiki therapy is doing for me. So we're getting into all these arenas of healing that aren't considered mainstream medical science. So you had just mentioned new research coming out along these lines. I don't know. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what's kind of fun and what I still really like about the research side merging with the more personal side. So in terms of learning to feel and express emotions, just from what I've experienced personally, that alone has been healing me. It's still healing me. It helps me actualize who I actually am. I can listen to the emotions and not only depend on my mind. So all of this. But now there's actually quite a bit of research coming out, and it's been out for a while. It's just research takes so long from getting to the bench, to the clinic, into medical schools, and then actually into medical practice. So this takes about 20 years to do. So if nobody's heard about this, I hadn't heard about this and I was in the medical world. Like this isn't atypical. There's a lot of work that's happening that isn't necessarily mainstream. And there's a lot of work now showing how effective emotions are to cure, and I say absolutely cure 100% all these chronic conditions. They've done it for women with fibromyalgia. They're showing it with patients with back pain. All of these conditions that just last and there's no real reason behind it. Chronic fatigue syndrome is another. Long COVID is another, where turning inward, grappling with the fear of the symptoms, grappling with what are you really suppressing, what's happening in your life, what's happening in your personal world and internally. And once you get to learning to feel and look at the fear around the symptoms themselves and actually address the underlying distress wherever it's coming from, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job, whether it's just fear of the symptoms themselves, people are getting better. They're getting 100% better from these quote unquote incurable conditions that they were never supposed to recover from. They're people who have been sent to the pain management team to take the opiates forever because they're always going to have pain. There's people with suppressed discs who are recovering because it's not the disc that's causing the pain. So it's really, and the more this is coming out, the more they're doing it for more and more conditions. So it hasn't been done for everything, but just anecdotally, there's patients going to PT with all sorts of different pains, and they're getting better by addressing the emotional side of their symptoms or the emotional side of their life and looking for the root cause of what's causing the distress in the body to begin with. And it's not often the body itself or wherever the site of pain is. And I think this is so cool because we as a culture trust research and it's there and it's showing it. So I'm excited to have it slowly go into medical knowledge, and the fact that Reiki is being more accepted and acupuncture is being more accepted into the medical world, and just this acknowledgement that just treating the body or the site of pain without looking at the entire person is not very effective.
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to your own work with, because you have your own business that you founded, Encompass Wellness LLC, correct?
Correct.
What are the some of the approaches that you use when your patients, your clients? What do we call? I don't want to call them patients per se, but when people come to you and want to get involved with you and utilize your services, what are some of the approaches you take that are a little bit different than if they would go to their doctor? Where do you start?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest ones just right off the bat is the time that I spend one-on-one with clients. And this is a very hard kind of intake to do in a medical system when you have 10 minutes with your doctor. Like, I do just acknowledge the system doesn't necessarily allow for this. So I have a lot of clients who come to me who have some sort of pain or illness. They've, similar to me, tried all the things, doing all the things, quote unquote, right, but they're not getting better. So the kind of first assessment is just to come in and to talk about their symptoms and the behavior of the symptoms, and just to see where the inconsistencies are, because there's signs that these symptoms, so these are more what we're calling like nervous system, subconscious mind driven system or symptoms. So if you have knee pain, it's not necessarily driven by your knee if it's lasted for a long time and you've done all the things. What happens is that your subconscious mind just gets so attached to these symptoms and it keeps promoting them if there's something dangerous that it's perceiving. So if we perceive like you're in a job that you hate, maybe you have knee pain because that knee pain is the thing that's telling you you're in danger. Or you've just had pain for a long time and your brain's very used to having it. So I just kind of start with, this is how the nervous system can work. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have knee pain forever or there's anything wrong with your knee. So that's kind of a very atypical approach to just talking about how pain works in general. And so kind of starting with this idea and this kind of more education of how the nervous system works, how pain works and all of that. And you can see like, sometimes I have headaches, but sometimes I don't. If you had something really wrong with your head, it wouldn't be that inconsistent. So we just start there to gain kind of a little bit of openness of, well, how could this be emotional? How could this be fear-based? And then we dive into that discussion. And then the follow-up kind of sessions are way more just gaining awareness of habits, things in our lives, things in our thoughts and internal states that might be putting us in a state of stress that we might not even realize. All of us are so stressed out these days because the intensity of the world we're in is so go, 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 can't stop. When I stop, I'm on my phone. When the only time I'm ever stopping is if I'm asleep, but otherwise I'm going, doing all the time. Mm-hmm. And all of that puts our brains and our nervous systems in this high alert state that can promote these symptoms. So it's gaining awareness of that and what you're suppressing and not dealing with. And like, okay, you say you're happy at your job. Are you really happy at your job? You say you love your partnership. Are you really satisfied there? And it's a slow more investigative kind of journey, which I love doing. And I think it'd be really satisfactory to dig below the surface to see what's real and what's not. What are we telling ourselves?
Yeah, I'm hearing from you a lot through this conversation that authenticity and being honest with yourself is one of the biggest steps that need to be taken to initiate the healing. On your website or on the article you forwarded me, you have this wonderful quote in there about what matters most to you. And it's honesty, truth, being yourself, because it's in these states that we can truly begin to heal. And honesty, truth, and being yourself, you have to be authentic in the world. You cannot deny things. You have to move through them.
Yes.
And when you do that, that's where the healing starts. So many times, and people who have addictive issues, we're in denial like crazy. We're in denial for years and years and years, man. It's like, it's kind of the same thing, really. And it's not until we get honest with ourselves, then the healing starts. But I think so many times, Allison, people are afraid, like you were, to get honest with themselves. You had your own social programming that you thought you had to uphold, and in society, so many times what I'm trying to do is, give people some grounding to help them realize that it's okay if you had an addiction issue. You know what? It's okay. It's really okay. Let's get honest and let's move forward with where we are, and that's when the really real healing happens. But anyway, back to you. When you have a client, are there any type of exercises? I know on your website you mentioned meditation. Did I see journaling or some type of what are some of the common therapeutic methods, I guess, that you employ?
One of the biggest themes is trying to get out of our heads and getting into our bodies, especially for people with pain or with addiction too, where we've numbed for so long. We fear these feelings, so we automatically run from them. We suppress them. We try to get away from them. No matter how we do it, we're going to do it. We're going to run. We're going to use a substance, whatever it is. So and this takes various different themes, but it's all about, okay, we're talking about this right now. You're telling me about something stressful in your life. Well, let's pause for a second and tune in to what it feels like. Where do you feel the stress? How does it look? Is there a color? How would you describe it? And it's really learning, and this can be slow depending on the person. It was very slow for me. I was terrified of feeling the fear or feeling whatever it was I was feeling, especially the pain, but turning towards these sensations and slowly over time realizing that they're just a sensation and they're safe, but they have so much information that our brains don't always realize, because we can justify anything and doing anything and come up with a bajillion different reasons that might be total opposites of why we should or shouldn't do something. But emotionally and physically and somatically, our bodies tend to be way more honest. So very slowly, whether it's through a meditation, whether it's through kind of just a experiencing somatic tracking of watching these sensations, how do they feel? That's a very common thing. And then also exploring emotions and sensations through journaling, where you kind of get out from the story of what exactly happened and just write about what you feel. Don't think about it and just see what happens and see what honesty comes up. And this is maybe a bit of an extreme example, but this kind of goes with the being honest with ourselves. Even there can be just a part of you that thinks something. Not all of you has to think that, or you can just feel it in the moment. Especially I have a lot of clients who are mothers, and a very, very stressed out situation to try and be doing all this self-work and healing when you have your own pain, but you also have children. And there's times where you just hate your kids, and you might need to write about how much you hate your kids, and you hate them in this moment. You don't really hate them, but there's a part of you that needs to express that anger. And through all of these different modalities of turning inwards, whether it's one-on-one with me, whether it's a meditation alone, whether it's journaling alone, just being honest with these feelings that are coming and knowing that you're just human for having them and they're part of this process to, okay, then you express this anger about at your kids, but then you can turn to loving them because you're like, I know, I really do love them. I just feel so frustrated and I'm tired. And you can be honest about that and you need a break or whatever it is. You can't always get to that honesty or that truth or that answer without feeling that frustration first. So those are kind of a lot of the themes of just going towards it, whatever modality that is. And because once you go towards, then you can go through, and then you can just keep going.
So now I'm wondering how long, when a client presents themselves to you and wherever they start, whatever their baseline is, how long would you say it takes for them, once you start teaching them and working with them, to start experiencing tangible relief to their symptoms, their pain symptoms?
It can sometimes be the first session, which is really beautiful just in the sense that, okay, just saying that there's this research showing that pain does not mean there's something wrong with your body. It can be nervous system based. And that means if it's nervous system based, you can recover. And that hope alone and that idea that you can get better can actually start improving people's symptoms instantly. Now, to keep it up can take longer, but there's usually noticeable change sometimes session to session, week to week. There's usually some shift relatively soon within the first month or so, which is amazing. It can take a while to get fully out of pain, especially if you have a more kind of complex pain symptoms that are really wrapped into many things in your life that might be work related, might be relationship related, might be you have a tendency to be a perfectionist and it's really you putting all this pressure on yourself and your symptoms are wrapped up in that. So that can take some time to switch out of those habits, but relief can come really quickly with this work, which is really, really amazing. For me, it took me time to get out of pain completely. It took me several years, but it was this gradual improvement that was just so amazing and beautiful. But I had so many years worth of pain going into it. So I'm on kind of the longer track for recovery. But yeah, it's beautiful. At least you can start to see things shifting relatively fast, which is amazing.
Yeah. Are you pain-free now?
I am.
You are.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah,
Okay.
I thought as much, but you are pain-free now. And did you throw out the medical treatments when you started getting into the more emotional, holistic stuff, or did you keep going and just use the meditation and getting in touch with your feelings as kind of add-on to medical?
I love this question, and it can be very important from a couple of different perspectives. For me, there was a point where going to the doctor and doing all the things, especially for the symptoms I'd always already gone to the doctor for, it wasn't helping me. And it was one of those things where when I was going, I was still looking. And I had this subconscious idea that if I'm going and I'm looking for this cure still, there must be something still wrong with me. But I really, after shifting that belief and like, no, I can get better and that medical way is not the way, I did stop doing the medical appointments. I stopped going to PT and all of that. There were times where I still went and got a massage because it made me feel good. I still went to acupuncture because I like my acupuncturist. I still went to the chiropractor because those situations made me feel safe, but they were from the intention that they weren't going to be the thing that was going to fix me. They were just going to make me feel comfortable, and I enjoyed it. So it wasn't when you go and keep doing these different medical treatments with a way of these will fix me, I have to do them, then you can get stuck in that fear cycle where if it's doing it for something you enjoy, it's great. But mainly I want this caveat too, because I'm not saying don't go to the doctor's bad or any of that. I mean, going to the doctor is very important. For me personally, if I have a new symptom that arises, I'll go to the doctor and just make sure it's not something serious. And most of the times it's not, and it's just a nervous system new thing that I have going on. So for the most part, I'm focused on the meditation, going to the doctor to just double check that there's nothing wrong if something new pops up. But otherwise, I mainly stopped that route because it wasn't helping me.
So I just had a thought and kind of wanted to ask you this one. Of your clients, without giving up anything confidential, do you have clients that come to you that tried to manage pain with drugs, alcohol, anything like that? You do.
Yeah.
And what happens to them once they get involved with Allison?
It's been really amazing. Because I see it a lot. Oftentimes, this is the most common theme and not always the designated rule, but there have been substance abuse clients who then have gotten sober or have recovered from that, but then they end up having pain. And it's such a common thing and such a common thread with what we're talking about in terms of, yes, they've addressed the substance abuse piece, but the driver of them to reach out for the substances initially, that is still lingering. And now that the substance isn't there to dampen the sensations and dampen the emotions, now pain's there. Pain's the new distractor. Pain's the new thing to focus on as opposed to drinking alcohol or smoking or whatever it is. And I see this so often as a shift in the nervous system of, no, we need to have something to distract us, and pain is the thing. And the beautiful thing about this work is once you start internalizing, once you start getting to the emotions, once you start feeling it and working through a lot of these past things, then there's less need to go to the substance. There's less need for your body to produce pain because you really are actually starting to feel safe in your body, which you've maybe never felt before, and just really starting to be yourself and who you really are, so you don't have that pressure to be anything else or anything that's inauthentic, and your body responds to that.
Yeah. With addiction recovery, it's very common. I mean, I will tell people that the hardest part is not getting, although it's really hard. Don't let me minimize it. Getting off when you're, physically dependent, that's pretty quick. I mean, it's painful, but it's quick. It's the work on your emotions that comes afterwards. People go to AA or whatever they do. A lot of people on the outside think it's all about keeping your drinking in check. Whereas after a while, people lose their obsession to drink, but they don't lose the emotional issues that they were grappling with for years and years that were numbed by their drinking. And that is the real battle. I tell you what, I still have instances. I've been at this sobriety thing for over a decade now. And just when I think I've got it all licked, I still have things that come up, old emotions, old situations that I'm like, I didn't even know I cared about that anymore.
Yeah.
And here they are. Let me ask you, have you ever heard, and I have a friend who is a yogi, he's into the yogic science. And have you ever heard of a samskara?
No, I don't know
Okay.
this.
So shifting gears a little bit to the metaphysical side, it is an experience in our life, negative or positive, that we cannot feel at the time. And we carry it in our heart space until our heart space opens up enough to the point where it can come to the surface. And that can take decades. I mean, it can happen quick. It can take a whole lifetime. It can take, in the yogic science, it can take multiple lifetimes, if you believe in that type of thing, for this repressed heart energy to come to the surface. And not until it comes to the surface and it's fully felt can you let it go, because the energy needs to move out. So it's kind of funny how all this stuff kind of ties together philosophically.
Well,
But
it's fascinating because it's all kind of the same world. Like we see this with trauma work all the time. It's just if you experience something anytime in your life that was really traumatic, your body has then suppressed it and kept it away. And it isn't until you start feeling safe enough where then those really traumatic things start coming to the surface. But you weren't ready to feel them before that because it would have been too much. And this lifetime or the next or whenever you're feeling safe enough to handle it, it's so, I love the overlap between these different worlds.
yeah, and I don't know in your practice, because I know we mentioned earlier, and I don't know if it was our initial conversation or when we started this, with the yogic samskaras, oftentimes they are negative traumas, something bad that happened, but a lot of times it can be something positive as well. It can be repressed love. And I don't like using that word all the time because people think different way. Everybody has a different definition of what love is. We oftentimes equate love for a type of attachment, be it a spouse, a parent, whatever. But it's positive things that your state, whatever it is, your programming, your substance abuse did not let you fully express at the time. And therefore it comes up later and it wants to be expressed. And that still wants to come out as well, which is its own challenges, because just like healing trauma from something negative, when you feel something positive, the opportunity to express that in the world might be long gone. So you have to have other mechanisms to do that, be it meditative or some of the things you're talking about. Do you have any clients that you find have positive emotional suppression?
Yeah, I'm really glad you're bringing this up because it's something actually I see more often than not. Clients are super frustrated about it. So I have two answers to this question. One initially is that some clients who have had hardship in their past, but they've, quote unquote, dealt with it. They've never had pain. Why is it happening now? All these good things are happening in their life. So this might be a marriage or a good relationship or moving somewhere or buying a home or having a child. And now all of a sudden, with all these good emotions that are coming up, now they get pain. Now they're super stressed out. Now they're really anxious and they don't know why. And oftentimes they call it like a good relationship, bad past syndrome or something, where you are in a safe place and a safe, joyful place, maybe for the first time in your whole life. And it's not until then that you realize everything you didn't get in the past. So but those clients can still access emotion, and it's actually the emotion of joy that's causing the fear. But there's others who really can't access the joy at all, especially after going through pain, after going through trauma, after going through substance abuse. You kind of lose access to the joy. And there's all this fear around if it starts coming back, well, what if it goes away again? So I'd rather just not feel it. I'd rather stay in this numb middle ground where I feel nothing, or maybe I'll just feel the hard things. Maybe I'll feel the grief and the anger, but not the joy, because that's the hardest one to lose. And so there can be so much fear and actually wanting to suppress joy because what if it goes away? Or some clients who joy was not something they could really express as a kid. I've seen this in a few male clients where they had very strict fathers, and joy is not something a man feels. A man is stoic. Nothing. Not even joy, not good, not negative, not nothing, just nothing. So even as an adult, he wouldn't laugh, he wouldn't access that. He would just bring himself back to the middle. And so it's fascinating, even the ones that you think, oh, joy is easy. We all want to experience that, but it's more complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. With my experience with substance abuse, I repressed a lot of joy. Experiences that weren't necessarily bad or traumatic. It's like, boy, that could have been a lot more joyful if I hadn't, I think the crux of what we're getting at throughout this whole conversation is authentic honesty with your own emotions in your experience is the path to true healing.
Yes.
And that is what you have experienced. And that is what you are trying to bring into the world with what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very much of the theme. Emotional centric is kind of my work, working with emotions. There's other pieces too, working with personality traits and past traumas and all of that. But emotions are so attached to all of this. And I'm very much of the opinion there's no such thing as a positive emotion. There's no such thing as a negative emotion. There's just an emotion. It isn't a gender specific thing. It isn't a rule between anybody that men experience it this way, women experience it in this way, culture should be this way. To me, emotional expression is a human thing. We wouldn't feel emotions, we wouldn't have emotions if there wasn't an evolutionary basis of where it was helping us. Emotions are all here to help us, even if they're hard to experience. And the more we open up to one, be that joy, be it anger, be it grief, the more our capacity grows for all of them. So they're not independent of each other. We try to make it that way, like only joy, only happiness, only success, all of that. But if you delve into grief, then all of a sudden your access to joy and your capacity to feel joy and love and all these other things that you might want to feel more are bigger. And it only grows. And it's amazing. Like this for me has been an amazing, amazing journey so far of just delving into this emotional work. Because the more I experience, the more I have the capacity for things that are amazing. Like having these joyous, life-changing experiences that I just never would have believed were possible, but they're possible because I went so deeply into the grief piece and the anger piece and the more challenging pieces. And it's beautiful. I'm all for emotions, and they're just there to tell us something.
Yeah.
And if we let ourselves express them, they don't want to stay. They don't stay around forever. They're just 5-10 minutes, express, move on.
It's when we don't express them that they linger.
Absolutely.
And they
Yeah.
manifest in ways that we find less than comfortable.
Yeah.
All
And we
right.
can get stuck too if our nervous systems are overactive and we're really, really stressed out, we can get stuck there as well. So there's a calming of the nervous system also that helps us move through it a little more.
Yeah. Yeah. So being a woman of science, you have, like I have, gone on this journey of exploration into all things spiritual. Where do you think those two roads cross? And this is just, I'm just kind of wondering your opinion, because the world of science and the world of spirituality sometimes they kind of butt heads, because spirituality, we see these results, but it's all anecdotal. It's kind of in the clouds. Science, we see results and it's all provable. Where do you kind of marry those two worlds?
I love this question. And it's something I'm still debating for myself as a scientist by training, but then someone who's healed by ways I cannot explain.
Right.
So definitely dabbled in the spiritual realm and what crosses. I've kind of been thinking of it in terms of like, there's this circle of what we know scientifically, and then there's this whole giant circle around it of what we don't know. And there's this gray kind of smudgy border between the two, which is definitely where I've been traveling more so. But it's amazing how much the science, but also the spiritual realm and the spiritual work, they're really showing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I come to my clients from a science basis. Science makes people feel safe. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
there's a research study that shows this. This is great. So that's where I start because it's a nice, safe container that you can go from. And I feel safe there and comfortable there that this is research backed. But then once you start delving into the emotional piece, you're kind of opening up a door for it to be whatever the client needs or whatever kind of resonates with the client, which I really like about this because we could keep it very strictly science of, okay, let's name this emotion. Where do you feel it in your body? This is a natural occurrence. This is how it happens. Your brain is doing this, blah, 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 blah. Or there could be a moment of it's just like, wow, I had this feeling where my heart just opened and that I was connected to everything and I can't explain it. And it started by me just feeling love for myself. So it could start with an emotion that we could talk science about, but then, yeah, well, what does that mean to you? Does that mean you just connected with the universe? Did you just connect with God? Did you just connect with a higher version of yourself? What words work for you? And I really like that kind of blurriness of the emotional piece because it is so personal,
Yeah.
person to person. And I mean, research is showing that feeling, quote unquote, your emotions are healing people. In the spiritual realm, people are accessing the deeper layers of themselves and it's healing them.
Mm-hmm.
Are they different? Maybe not. It's just the way we talk about it is different.
Right. Yeah. Though, you want to talk about, I don't know, and this is just kind of an aside, you want to talk about a blurry line that marries science and spirituality. Do you ever look into any of the quantum physics stuff?
I've dabbled just a tiny
Oh,
bit and it gets so over my head and yeah.
oh, like literally, science goes only so far and it can prove some really weird stuff, but it's like, why is this or why does it work like that? Nobody knows,
Yeah.
but that's a whole different topic. But anyway, okay, so Allison, we're coming up on an hour here. I want to give you the opportunity to let people know where they can find you if they're interested in talking to you more about what you might be able to do to help them, and kind of let us know anything you want to let us know in closing. Specifically, I'm thinking of people who might be watching this who are past addicts who might be suffering with pain, or people who might be just very mindful of their chemical use. They don't want to drink or smoke or use, I keep saying, you said opiates. I always say opioids, and I know I'm mispronouncing that. But anyway, they don't want to turn that direction. So what do you have to say in closing to those type of people, and where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this closing question because it's the one thing I guess I would want to leave is there is hope for everybody in recovery. Even no matter how many people and how many doctors and how many people you have seen who told you you're not going to get better. That's absolutely not true. And some of the most weighted, heavy unfortunate thing a medical professional can tell you. I was told it many, many times for my various symptoms, and it's not true. There is recovery. The beautiful thing about it is you have the power to do it. You don't necessarily need someone else to do it. It's just turning inward. I say just, but this can be a very long journey and it can be very challenging and maybe the hardest thing you'll ever do, but you can do it. And there's hope for that recovery. And if you need guidance, I would just love to work with anyone who's open to it and can point you to other places as well if we're not a good fit. And so, yeah, just want this idea of this lingering hope to be there, because this hope is taken away so many times with substance work, especially in pain work. And it's just not true. And you have the power to change your life. It's just whether or not you're willing and really want to do it, because it's not easy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, that's a beautiful way to close. We have every superpower we ever need inside of us if we just put the belief into it, the authenticity, and we just learn to access it. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
So anyway, Allison, thank you so much for being with us. It has been so delightful to have you here. We love you here, obviously. It has been such a delight getting to know you over the last couple of years. And I always tell people, like, Allison is the type of person who she's just like, you want to take her home and make her your kid's sister. You know,
I love it. Thank you.
You really do. You really do. I love knowing you. I love that we got to meet in person when I was in Colorado last year.
That was great.
And yeah, well, it's kind of funny because I wanted my wife to meet some of these people, because I mean, I do get in these groups that are almost all women and I meditate with them and everything. So it's like, I do kind of got to be like, okay, yes, see, these people are who I'm socializing with. So she's kind of like a little more comfortable with that, but she's been really cool about it also,
That's great.
But
That's great.
Anyway, all right. So Allison, thank you so much for being here, and
Awesome.
You keep rocking. Thank you for the light you're bringing to the world.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tim. And yeah, if anyone's interested, please feel free to visit my website, which I think Tim will link. It's www.encompasswellnessllc.com. I do work with clients both one-on-one as well as in group settings. I teach an emotional expression workshop, which has been really great, and I've loved it a lot. And if one-on-one is more the work that you're looking for, that's an option as well. And yeah, I'd like to mention too, I do work a lot with pain clients, but also just with people who are looking to discover a deeper layer within themselves, or you're struggling with hardship or something challenging that's coming up. Like, these are all resources that I love to work with people around. So please reach out. I would love to connect. And thanks so much, Tim, for having me.
All right. Thank you, Allison.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Sober Awakening podcast. We are so grateful and excited that you're part of this journey. As always, please remember, any businesses, services, or individuals mentioned here are shared because they resonate with our mission. We receive no financial benefit from promoting them. It's all about guiding you toward what inspires and empowers your journey. If you've found value in this podcast, please consider supporting our mission with a tax-deductible donation at www.soberawakening.org. Every contribution helps us continue providing resources and inspiration for those seeking sobriety and spiritual fulfillment. Don't forget to subscribe, share this episode, and visit us at soberawakening.org for more resources and upcoming events. Let's continue this path together toward a life of sobriety and spiritual fulfillment. We love you so much. Until next time, stay sober-minded and intuitively guided.